Konnichiwa everybody, it's Heather Keith and it's Wednesday and you know what that means, new video. Today I'm going to be a tutorial on how to dye fabric and I'm going to be dyeing this shirt, a light blue, for my Fiona cosplay. Anyways, today I'm going to be using a new type of dye, well, brand of dye I haven't used before. I generally use Tulip but could not find the right color for her shirt, so I'm using Dylon China Blue to hopefully get a nice pretty light blue. And that explains why I'm in old t-shirt, just to make sure I don't get any dye on it. But I will say this, you're going to need a few things. You're going to need a large bucket that'll hold at least up to 5,000 gallons. That'll just make sure that you have room for your fabric and everything once it gets in. And you're going to need salt and a measuring cup that can measure up to a cup. And what I always do before I ever start dyeing anything, some people like to do it the opposite, but I fit it, make sure, I make sure I wear it, make sure it fits, and then I dye it. Some people like to do afterwards, but I feel like when you fit it before, it's less work trying to match up thread. That way your thread, if you already fit it, in this shirt, luckily for once, I'm doing something I don't have to fit. It fits wonderfully. So we're going to turn this shirt into Fiona's pretty blue shirt. So let's get started. Hi everybody, so we're in my bathroom, which you can see is pink and Hello Kitty everywhere. And one thing I forgot to tell y'all to get is something to stir with. I just used this old long toothbrush, and just make sure, because it's not going to take a ton of water. The only reason I say to get such a big bucket is to avoid splashing and just to completely make sure. But make sure, you can reach your hand in. And this doesn't have a handle or anything, but something with a handle or something easily gripped is good, because a lot of times you're going to be stirring the dye for a good amount of time and your hand's going to get really, really tired. So first thing first is to fill up, I'm going to be using one packet of dye. Oops. I'm going to be using one packet of dye, which means I'm going to need about 1.5 gallons. And this bucket is a 5-gallon. So about 1.5 gallons is going to be about right there. And also, if you're going to use one pack of dye for the Dylon, you're going to need 1 cup or 8 ounces of salt. So I've got my iodized salt, and we're ready to go. So I'm going to fill up my bucket. And make sure to use hot water. It helps the dye sink in better, and it helps it stay longer. So let's get all this stuff mixed up. I've got the dye all mixed up, and you can see it's a very dark shade of blue. That's just because it's very concentrated right now, and once you add your fabric, it's going to really lighten up. So don't worry if the dark color scares you. Blues are especially dark, and I've dyed black fabric, and it looks crazy. Also, one extra thing is, I have very long hair, and a lot of times I pull it back when I do a lot of stuff with like fabric paint, because I've had experiences where I've gotten fabric paint in my hair and for some reason it stained it. And I know y'all probably wondering like, hey, why do you got your hair pulled back? Because I usually don't do that. Another thing is, like I said, just make sure you use the hottest water possible. I'm not sure why the chemical reactions work like that, but it does help the color settle more. And make sure it's really well stirred, because if you have any clumps of the dye, you're going to have one area darker than the other. And that's one problem I had when my first time dyeing clothes. I was like, okay, I'll just mix it up and throw it in there and let it sit. And it was pink, and I had little splotches of red, and I had to go out and rebuy the dye. I just bleached this shirt, and that's one good thing, is you don't have to buy a new shirt a lot of the times. You can start out from white, because you can just bleach it. Anyway, so I think mine is good and stirred, and like I said, just giant paintbrush. I do have skin problems, so a lot of times I get very sensitive skin towards things. Now one more thing is, before you put your shirt in, you're going to want to run it under some water and get it hot and wet, and make sure it's thoroughly soaked before you put it in your dye. The shirt is thoroughly soaked, as you can see. It's dripping wet and it's very hot. What you're going to want to do is you're going to stretch it out and slowly introduce it to the fabric, or not the fabric, the fabric into the water. And just make sure there's enough room. And make sure the fabric can be completely submerged while you're doing that. And then just kind of poke it down a little bit. Make sure it all goes under. And the next part is my least favorite, is you are going to have to sit here and stir and stir and stir until the time limit is up. That's why I like tulip dyes because it's usually about half an hour of stirring. I mean, I know that sounds like a lot, but some of them are even more. Oh, this says, okay, this one you have to stir continually for 15 minutes and then regularly for 45 minutes. So this is an hour, but the first one, I mean, the first 15 minutes, what it means is you're really going to want to make sure it's moving. When you get past that into the 45 minutes when the dye's started to really soak in through, you're going to want to, it's not going to have to be as vigorous. You can give it a slow stir. But that first 15 minutes, you're going to want to continually stir it. And as you do, what I do is usually around the half mark, I pull it out, especially when I'm doing light colors to make sure the color's coming out right. Because if it's too light, you can always put it back in. But if it's too dark, you have to completely start over and it's not fun. So pretty much you're just going to let this sit here and stir it, and I will see you guys in 15 minutes. I've been stirring for 15 minutes, and, oh goodness, this is hard to get out. You know what, forget it. This is the color. It's not quite where I want it, so I'm going to do it for a little bit longer. It will turn out a little bit lighter when it comes out after you wash and dry it, but that's it so far. So 15 minutes out the way, hard part done. Now all it's going to take is, I don't know, for this I'm probably going to do another 5 to 10 minutes of the regular stirring and then see how the color looks again. It all depends. I would keep checking after the 15 minutes is up to see where the color is and how you want it. Ended up mixing it for about 7 more minutes, and now it's the color I wanted it. What you're going to want to do now is just pretty much dump your water. I do it in my bathtub just because I always wash my bathtub afterwards so I don't have to worry. But if you're not going to clean it like immediately, I would do it outside or in a sink. But when I get it out, I just kind of throw it over there and throw out the water. And my bathtub looks like an ocean. And you are going to want, to clean it, you're going to want to hand wash it the first time with fabric detergent in cold water. And you don't have to have a bucket for it, you can just clean it straight over. Before you start washing it, you're going to want to rinse it with the cold water until the runoff is clear. Okay, so I've got it all rinsed out, and it does look a little bit lighter, and I like the color. After you do this, you can hang it outside to dry. I don't particularly like that method just because it takes a really long time. I don't know why, but after you dye fabric, the fabric takes forever to dry. So I just put mine on delicate setting on the washing machine. And again, I mean, even on that, it'll still take a while. You'll just have to set it, go back, check it, and keep rechecking it until it's dry. So I'm going to go do that, and I'll come back and show you all the finished product. Okay, everybody, this is the finished product. It's still a little bit damp, like I said. It takes a long time to finish, and it almost has like a light purplish tint on it, but I think the color's going to work fine for Fiona. And maybe if I do think it's not quite right, like I said, you can re-dye things. And one thing I might do for this shirt, now that I'm thinking about it, is you can soak it in a water and bleach mixture and make it a little bit lighter. Like I said, I'm just going to have to think about it, but it came over very even, as you can see. Like, you can see some streaks, but that's from, I can feel where it's not completely dried yet. And when it dries, it will be even, and it won't be as see-through. I hope you guys all enjoyed my tutorial on how to dye fabric. And just a few things to remember. Depending on the amount of fabric you have is depending on the amount of water you're going to have in the mixture. Like I said, I really like the Tulip brand dye. The liquid dye I feel is great because it's concentrated. You don't have to use very much of it. You don't have to put in as much salt, and it just works very nicely. Though I do enjoy this dye, I don't feel like it came out exactly like the packet, the color on the packet, but it is, I mean, it'll do. I like it. So do whatever y'all guys want, experiment. One thing I did not show that a lot of times I do is I get just a regular piece of white cloth. Like I said, if I'm fitting something, I do beforehand. If I have an extra piece of the cloth that I'm doing, I test that out first to see about what it's going to come out. That way I can do adjustments. On this one, I just kind of went right into it since I have a bunch of other stuff to do. But like I said, you guys come and tune in to me next Wednesday. I hope everyone has had fun and will join me on my next adventure, whether it be cosplay, accessories, Alita, whatever. So keep tuned, and remember, you can pick the like or subscribe button depending on what you're watching it on. Okay, so I've got it in the different lighting, and I'm starting to think it is definitely, too light and too purplish. And so instead of going back and redoing the entire process, I am just going to soak it and re-dye it for a short amount of time in a brighter blue. And so hopefully it'll come out a lot better. But anyways, it did come out close to the packet. I probably should have gotten a bluer color for the shirt. And this just goes to show you that when you go dye shopping, make sure you bring a picture of the character. So, y'all have fun, and hopefully yours comes out perfect the first time, unlike mine. And I will definitely post pictures once the whole costume is done so you can see how it all goes together.